Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's 2 o'clock, and welcome to episode 22 of the M Word. My name is Robin, and I'm the technical director of Man and Machine in the UK, and it's a pleasure to be talking to you this afternoon. We had a week off last week. Apologies for that. We had a few things crop up here that I had to deal with, so we couldn't go live last week. But we're going to make up for it this week with some really good content. I'm actually looking forward to this session. We're going to talk a little bit about a product called Twinmotion, which any of you that have been following the goings-on and the jibber-jabber over in Autodesk University in America, in New Orleans, will have heard yesterday, day before, lose track of time, that Autodesk and Epic Games have partnered up, and they're going to be providing access to Twinmotion, which is real-time rendering, high-quality real-time rendering at that, to give you fast and easy access to rendering for all Revit users. To begin with, it's going to be specifically those with access to an AEC collection. We don't quite know all of the ins and outs and details with regard to that partnership and when the access goes live and things like that. But I've got my binoculars out, and as soon as I see any news with regards to that, I will certainly let you know. So absolutely, thank you for joining us here this afternoon, and I hope you find the next half an hour or so useful. For those of you that are new, that haven't joined this session before, the idea really of this is to have a bit of a virtual coffee break with me and R2D2 today, to talk about something relating to the design industry. We're obviously an Autodesk partner. We cover both manufacturing, product design, fabrication, construction, building information modeling, and everything else from an industry perspective. So sometimes we look at Inventor, sometimes we look at AutoCAD, Vault, Autodesk Docs, the Construction Cloud, Revit, you name it. We like to use these sessions to try and give you a tip or a trick or a what's new or something that hopefully helps you and gives you some productivity boosts. Either that or you just like sitting here listening to me ramble on for half an hour or so. But hey, glad to have you with us. Please follow us on our social media channels. Give us a like, give us a subscribe so you can see when we post new content up. As well as these live sessions each and every Thursday, we put up a whole raft of content throughout the week for those different subjects. Some of those videos short and sweet, some of them are longer and more detailed, bigger than an old Nokia 5510. But you know, we're putting up a lot of content. Please check it out and give us a like and give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to see on these sessions, and we'll be more than happy to oblige. So, as I say, what we're looking at today is Twinmotion. So we're going to jump straight in and have a play. I've not used this product for probably best part of a year, maybe a bit longer. So it's going to be interesting for me to open it up today for the first time in a year or so, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an appreciation of what it is. And if you've got an AEC collection and you're a Revit user, this is really exciting news out of Autodesk University that you will be getting access to this product for free as part of your AEC collection at some point over the next release or so. So keep an eye on the space. So without any further ado, let's just shrink myself into the bottom corner. I'm in a different room today. I'm in the office, but I'm in a different room and everything's moved. So I keep looking down here. So let's go over there. There we go, and shrink myself into the corner and share my screen. Perfect. So the first thing I want to do is just explain maybe what you have to do to install Twinmotion. Again, I don't know how this is going to change, if it's going to change, when we get into the realms of this actually being accessible by Autodesk Revit users. But it's not necessarily as straightforward as download a plugin and off you go. So the first thing I'm going to go through is the process that you have to go through to get this up and running. So it's an Epic Games piece of software. It uses the Unreal Engine. It's currently using Unreal Engine 4. I can't wait for it to use 5 because Unreal 5 is just unreal. See what I did there? That was nice. Terrible. Just someone get me off. This is terrible. Terrible jokes, but I'm going to keep doing them. So you have to install the Epic Games application. And then once you're on there, you have to download the Unreal Engine. So once you've downloaded the Unreal Engine, you'll need to redeem a code. Again, this might change when it comes to accessing through your AEC collections, but as of right now, you redeem a code through your Epic Games store, and that gives you access to the Twinmotion tab inside of Epic Games. So step 1, download Epic Games. Step 2, redeem your code, and then you'll have access to the Twinmotion tab. Again, you have to install the Unreal Engine, which is quite hefty, and then you install Twinmotion. Once you're done with that, if you scroll down the page, you will find a Get the Most Out of Twinmotion, where you can hit Learn More, which will open up a web page, twinmotion.com. And if you scroll down on that web page, you will find some plugins for your relevant software. Now, I'm focusing on Revit users today because of that huge announcement at Autodesk University. But this works with so many other users. If you've got a product design manufacturing collection and you want to send a product from Inventor across into Twinmotion, we can do that via 3ds Max. If you're a 3ds Max user and you want to use some of the fantastic tools in Twinmotion to build some scenery and some foliage and stuff like that, then you can use it with 3ds Max as well as other stuff. But you download your plugin and then you'll be ready to go. So we have, in my case, got everything installed that we need. We've got the Unreal Engine for 25.4 and we've got Twinmotion. And I've also installed the plugin for Revit 2023. And to keep this, much like all these sessions are, as streamlined and as straightforward and as off the shelf and easy to follow, hopefully, as necessary, I want to use a file or a sample that you've all seen and used and are familiar with. So in Revit, I'm going to open up the good old sample project. I say the good old sample project, the old sample project, basic sample project. And I'm going to use that for the purpose of this, just because it's got some stuff in there. It saves me modeling any componentry up, and it's something that you've all got access to. If you've got Revit, you can do the exact same thing that I've just done, and maybe you could follow this along as a little bit of a pick and click how-to. So we've got this file open, and I'm just going to jump into a 3D view. And then using that 3D view, on your ribbon bar on the top right-hand side, you will have a Datasmith tab. Now that Datasmith tab is what you install when you use the plugin for Revit, and that gives you a load of different options. So first and foremost, you've got a settings, and with those settings you can choose what you want to export, any filters that you want to have, a level of tessellation to control your model quality. So we don't want to export dimensions or identity data or phasing information. So we can go in and choose what we do and we don't want to export out. I'm quite happy with everything as default. I only installed this yesterday, so firstly, I really hope this works, otherwise it's going to be the world's worst and shortest YouTube live. But this is all completely off the shelf, so what you see here is typically what you're going to get. So I'm going to say export to Datasmith file, and I'm going to go ahead and save that on my desktop just so I can find it and hit save. This is just going to take a few seconds now, or a few moments, just to go in and extract the geometry information, the information about the textures into that, that small sized file format that we can then pick up and open inside of the Twinmotion system. You'll notice that you've got a direct link button as well, so you can connect this up with Twinmotion as well, so you can do some live synchronization between the two. For example, if I launch Twinmotion using, let's use 4.26. So we'll launch Twinmotion, give it a few seconds to file up. You know what I've just done? I haven't launched Twinmotion. I've launched the Unreal Editor, which was a really silly thing to do because now it's going to sit there wondering about the world for a few seconds. So, sorry, let's wait for it to open and press cancel, and then go back into the Epic Games Store and actually press the right button this time. Maybe I'll just put something on for you to see while I do that. There we go. Make sure you scroll at the top of the Twinmotion thing and press where it says launch in massive white letters with a big red background, rather than this one up here. So hit launch. This will open up Twinmotion. Again, the first time you launch this, it's going to take a few seconds just to launch up for the first time. It's going to load in some resources. I'm running off my laptop today, which is getting quite worn out and old. So hopefully it holds up. You'll probably hear the fan kick in through the microphone in a second, but hopefully it's not too loud. And then those live synchronization options that I've just shown you inside of Revit will also appear. It will recognize that you've got Twinmotion open, and it will allow you to synchronize. So we can do like a one-off export. If there's a Revit user and you're a separate user using Twinmotion, you can pick up their file and bring it in. In this case, I have both systems on the same PC. So we can open up our connection, he says. And it should normally pick it up. In this case, let's do a link. Let's go to direct link up here. And let's say, yep, there's our sample project. Great, so it's recognized that we have that open here. Let's go down to options, and we've got the ability to choose how we handle that information when it comes in. So we can collapse objects by material, we can group them by material, we can try and make sure that UVs are controlled per project, per product, precisely. Use original lights, have them more intense. I'm going to leave everything as default, and I'm just going to say import. And this is directly connecting now with Revit and bringing that data directly through that Revit direct link functionality. Once that's done once, the synchronization button in Revit will become live. So if I change something in Revit, I can resync it across to Twinmotion. So it gives you that ability to work quite nicely inside of that system. So just give it a few seconds to synchronize. I think it's probably above where my camera is. So let's go upwards. Where have you gone? Okay, let's save the file on the desktop, and I'm going to call it delete me so I can find it later. And where have you gone, Mr. Revit document? I'm sure it's above me. Come on, faster. Hold down shift. It's almost like it keeps getting further away the closer I get to it. It's because it does keep getting further away the closer I get to it. But that's really annoying, isn't it? Let's go here. Let's go. It's not there. Doesn't work if it's not there. Okay. Try again. Drag and drop the scene in. Give it a second to think about life. Where have you gone? So the file is here, but typically, in live demonstration fashion, it won't let me import it, which is really very frustrating. Let me just give it a new scene. Let's not save. Let's do it with the file rather than the direct link. Let's open up from the desktop, choose open. We'll do it the old-fashioned way, and we'll just extract that data in rather than using that direct link. There we go, and it comes across into our model. Let's just spin around and try and navigate closer. So I'm just using the WS8 and D as movement to move forward, backwards, left and right, just like you would if this was a video game. We can hold down shift to walk faster, let go to walk slower. And as you can see, as eventually we get there, we have that model loaded. Now, Twinmotion will always give you a default ground, so you get this this ground surface that will appear, which in my instance is just this this brickwork that you can see here. I'm going to get rid of that. So that ground that you have there, you can just turn it off in this browser on the right-hand side if you want to. Or we could move it. We can move it down. We can move it up. We can translate that any way that we see fit. But I'm just going to hide it. For the purpose of this, I don't want that on. I just want to have my Revit model in here. And there we can see the model is sat. It just looks like a crisp version of that CAD model right now. But if you look to the right-hand side, you have your scene graph. Your scene graph is where it's showing you your model browser. So you've got all of your light information, which you can see we can turn on and off. If you have a look through this window down here, you can see as we turn the lights on, it gets brighter. As we turn them off, it gets darker. So it recognizes those lights, and there are physical lights coming out of those lighting systems, just like you would see inside of Enscape or something like that. We've also got all of the other components in here, which we can come in and select and then turn on or off in the browser as necessary. It works as you would expect from that perspective. So once we've got the model in, we can start doing stuff. And there's a whole raft of things that you can do with Twinmotion, and we don't have the ability to cover all of those today. But let's just focus on some quick getting started things. And actually, one of the things that I love about this is how quickly we can bring our scene to life with different bits and pieces. So first things first, on the top left, you can just about see there's a little arrow that's pointing to the right here. If we expand that, we get a library. And that library is going to give us some components, some assets, materials, finishes, and things like that that we can use to start bringing this scene to life, or maybe adding some more realism to this scene. And maybe the first thing we want to do is replace some of these RCP elements. So inside of Revit, we've got these RCP elements here that have come across, as you would expect, inside of Twinmotion. But I want to change those for more realistic trees. So from my library, I can go into vegetation, I can go into trees, and I can come and select a tree type from this library. So let's just come in and maybe select, I don't know, what should we go with? Let's go with this Japanese white larch. If we select this and drag and drop, it will drag and drop that and place it into your scene. You get a gizmo for rotation and movement, which can be aligned to a single or multiple axes. And we can basically place that around our scene. You'll notice even though I'm grabbing multiple axes, it is keeping it aligned to that surface that I've dropped it on, which is really, really neat. So I'm going to select this RCP element and get rid of it, and then drag this tree and this tree over the top. Now those trees, when they're added, as you can see, are far more detailed than what we had with the RCP elements. You can see they're also animated. Why am I doing that for? They're animated. So these components are also animated. I'm not having to keep the camera moving to make those components animated. They are just animated by default, which is, again, a really nice touch. So we had a couple there, and there was also a couple on the other side. So let's just turn those RCP elements back on. Wish I'd have noted where they were. There we go, RCP plants. And then let's just grab a couple more, maybe this turkey oak, there we go. Let's put one of those there, and what else should we have? A Katsura tree, that'll do. Let's throw that there as well. Great. So we've got these trees, we've placed them down, and as you can see, they look tremendous. They're well lit, their shadowing's nice, and they look pretty good. What's also great about those is those assets are intelligent, and although I'm just doing this on a tree, you can do this with any of these elements. So that tree has an age. If I drag the age of that tree up or down, he says, with a slider that should work, it makes the tree younger or older, bigger or smaller, with regards to this. And you'll see that the actual shape of that tree changes. It's not just the size. You can see the different type of foliage and the shape of the tree changes based on its age. We can turn growth on and off. We can add tints to the leaves. We can have tints to the bark. We can even go as far as changing the season of a particular tree to the winter to get rid of all of its leaves, or changing it to the autumn to make it all sort of reddy brown colour, which is kind of what we're going through in the UK at the moment. Really love this time of year. So, you know, we can add those. They look instantly great. And that continues really throughout what we're going to do with this product. We can add stuff into here to make the model look instantly better. So I wonder if we've got any solar panels in here. Let's go back to our library and do a search for solar. Solar panel. And let's see what we've got. No, we don't need anyone from space. We don't need a NASA Curiosity rover. What do I mean we don't need it? We do need a NASA Curiosity rover. Let's download it and put it in because we can. So you can see here we've got a whole wealth of stuff. You can sit just there. We've got a whole wealth of stuff that we can just drag and drop in. Some of them are objects that you would expect to see. Some of them may be objects that you wouldn't expect to see. I wonder if R2-D2's on there. If R2-D2's on there, then, you know, that's game, set, and match for me. Yes, he is. There we go. Let's bring full poly. We don't want a low poly version. Full poly R2D2, there, thank you very much. There we go. I know which one I'd rather take to Mars, R2. Okay, so we can bring those components in. Not all of them have quite the options as the ones that you would expect. The trees obviously are default Epic assets, so they work as you would expect. But let's come in and start building up maybe some of the landscape first of all. So under that library, as you've seen, we've got a whole wealth of different components. But what I want to do down here on the left is show you some of these tools. So if we go down to context, we've got paths, so we can create animations of cars going down the road or people walking down a path. And we've also got things like vegetation paint and vegetation scatter. Urban allows you to download site context so you can get a rough topo and some rough paper model buildings. We're not going to do this for this example because it will kill my internet connection. But if we go to vegetation paint, we can drag and drop vegetation into a paintbrush, change the diameters or the density of those, and then paint over any surface that exists. So let's go back to vegetation and landscape, pick grass and flowers, and let's just pick some wild grass. So we're going to drag and drop wild grass into our paintbrush. I want to also have maybe a little bit of tall grass in there. Maybe I want to have a different type of tall grass in there. Maybe some buttercups, maybe some daisies. And that's probably about right. I can then select these and change the density of each one. So a really high density here of wild grass, a fairly low density of the two types of tall grass, and a fairly low density of buttercups and daisies. With that, I can then select a paintbrush, and it's going to choose to paint an area of a surface that I'm hovering over. So I can literally grab over this surface and start painting. Before I do so, it might be that you want to turn off the other stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of do this by eye. But in your case, you might want to turn off some of the other stuff before you start painting. But if I click and hold my mouse, you'll see that it starts painting objects onto that surface. I think I might be a little bit too much, or have a little bit too high density with some of those flowers. I thought a 30% compared to 100% would be quite low, but let's go with it. Let's keep at it. It looks cool. Let's paint all the way over there. I think I managed to get some on the wall. We don't really mind. And you can change the size of the brush. You can make the brush bigger. You can make the brush smaller. Let's come over here. Lovely. And let's go around to the other side of the building. Hold down Shift to walk faster. And if we get closer, you'll see what that's done. Yes, it has painted the outside of the building. We'll go with it. It was completely accidental. I like it. Let's change the density of those flowers because they're too dense. There we go. Much lower. And that will go and update any other surface that I've painted. As you can see, the rest of that surface instantly updates. Really, really cool. And whilst I'm painting with one brush, we can have as many of these as I want. So let's just paint a little bit more over here. Again, I've been very inaccurate there. But we've also got an eraser tool. So whilst I have painted some stuff that I didn't want to, if you're making like a living roof or something like that, this works tremendously well. But if I select my eraser and just lower the size of this brush, I can start removing those objects as well as painting them in the first place. So it's quick and easy. The living room looks like something from The Last of Us. But hey ho, we've got something that looks pretty good, and we're going to go with it. We've not got time to mess around too much with the look and feel. But again, instantly, how quick was that to get this kind of quality? Even if I get down here in amongst these leaves, let's just get rid of that up there with my eraser tool. Get rid of that, and get rid of some of that. Even if you just went that far, a couple of trees, it looks great. Just by having that in there, it looks fantastic. If we then put in a bit of vegetation, maybe add a couple of rocks, let's add this big rock because we can. Here, let's add these big rocks because we can. Okay, they're small. These big rocks because we can. Over there, and select it and rotate it round maybe. Great, bring it up a little bit. Maybe add a couple more bits and then we'll move to the inside. So miscellaneous, what do we want now? A tree stump, why not? Let's put a tree stump. Well, the smallest tree stump, but it's going there. There we go, and we can bring them up. Great. So instantly you've got something that really starts to give you great feedback, and it's fast. I'm running off a fairly high spec machine, but that said, it's giving you fast results. Imagine when you can do this inside of your AEC collection. Really, really cool. So let's look at some materials. So against this object here, we've got this kind of wooden material that's come across from Revit for the cladding on the side here. It looks horrendous. It's really low sort of texture, low quality texture. So whilst I'm in that library at the top, I can go to materials and I can go and find a texture that I'm happy with. So let's match it. Let's go to wood and let's go and find a wood that I'm happy with. Let's come down and choose maybe a chestnut might be nice. We've got all of these different options. They're typically flooring woods in here, but let's choose a wallboard. Oak's quite nice. Mahogany is quite nice. I don't know. Let's go with this mahogany here. So we can grab that mahogany and again just drag and drop it on. When you drag and drop it on, anything that's got that material, because I left this sort of grouped by material, will get that texture. So all of those objects that had that Revit material now have this Twinmotion material. And with that material, I've got options. So instantly it gives me access to change the color of that texture, if it wants to have a tint, the amount of reflectivity, the scale, so I can make it much bigger for the purpose of this. Let's bump that to 5. Turn on weathering if you want this to weather with the snow and the wind and the rain. We can even go in and change the mappings under settings to control how much bump this has. So a bump map is when something's rough. So this jumper I've got on today, as you can see from the screen flickering all over the place, it's quite rough, it's very woolly. So if you didn't have a bump map on there, it would look very flat. Likewise, bricks and mortar, without a bump map or a normal map, they look very flat. By adding an inverse color and very high contrast bump or normal map, it allows you to create depth with white for high points and dark for low points to give you something that looks like it's got depth. And if I just play around with the slider here, you should be able to see the difference between some of these knots and things like that in the wood. If we go through and play around with those settings, I've got all sorts of options with regards to how, let's just go more. Where's the options for the size? Not two-sided. Is it that one? Bear with me, guys and girls. Let's just go back to the settings somewhere. I think it's under the scale one, sorry. Somewhere under the scale, you can also change the rotation. So I want this to be vertical, so I can just rotate this round either with the slider or by typing in 90 degrees. And instantly there, you've got such a nicer material, and it's that easy. It will then remember that, and every texture of that type in Revit is going to come through as that particular one inside of Twinmotion. We can do the same for this glass. So if we go back to materials, go to glass, we've got a whole range of different glasses. Let's just choose some pattern ones for no other reason other than they're really cool. And just grab this, this kind of, where are we? No, not the squares one. There's one with just a single line safety sticker for offices. Half. That'll do. If we grab that one and drag and drop that one onto our glass, you'll notice all the glass with that material from Revit comes across as that inside of Twinmotion. Again, you can control that. You can separate the elements and control them individually. It really is up to you on how you want to work. But again, it's quick, it's easy, and it works extremely well. When it comes to the interior, we can do the same thing. So with our materials, we've also got flooring. So I can come down to things like flooring, go to marble, try and find maybe some nice marble flooring. I think there's a separate area just for flooring off the top of my head. Maybe I made that up. Ground, man-made. They're all outside, aren't they? Yes. I thought we had a flooring. Might be going mad. Wall coverings, ceilings, grids. Yeah. Marble again. Let's scroll down and just select one of them. I'm sure somewhere around here there's a tiles, but there we go. I'll throw that on the floor. And again, that will go and update. And again, it looks nice. It's giving you a nice result ever so quickly. And that's really starting to come to life just by adding those couple of textures outside. It's starting to look good already. So the idea here is you bring in your Revit model. Again, it's live synced. So if you was to resynchronize after making a change in Revit, it will ping those changes over to Twinmotion. But you can also extend this in even more areas. We can animate objects. We can make doors open and close as we get close to them. I don't have time to do that today, but if I show you one of the default objects here, let's go into an object. Let's go to home. Let's go to, where are we? No, objects, doors, there we go. Let's go to doors. Let's have a rotating door and just place a sample door there. If I just move close to that door, it opens. So it's got like an area of contact, and when your camera comes into that area, it'll open the door. You can manually set those up with keyframe animations, so your Revit families will do the same thing. So again, you can really bring your objects to life. Even with regards to animations, you know, particles, I can come in here and make fog banks if I want to, and place fog into the scene and control the density of the fog, which will just build up a bit like a smoke machine. We can add a fireplace, so I can add a fire in here, running water, flares, showers, so on and so forth. It just makes it quick and easy to do these kind of things that would otherwise be very difficult. You know, even a Max user that's been using 3ds Max for years, the amount of rendering / time it's going to take them to get the particles set up in that way, it's more difficult than just to drag and drop. This works well. And one of my favorites is actually the decals, because we can come into a decal and place it onto too much smoke onto a wall here, and I can just say, do you know what? I want to have a bit of graffiti. Let's grab this graffiti and drag and drop it on that wall, and it will literally place it over the top of that texture, and you can control the opacity and how that looks for floor markings and stuff like that. It's great. It works ever so well. And again, the whole idea about doing this session today, oh no, R2 and the Mars rover are covered in grass. This is terrible. The whole idea about doing this session today is because this is going to be in your AEC collection. If you're a Revit user, you're going to get access to this with this announcement from Autodesk University, which is really, really exciting. For me, it's kind of game-changing. So just a couple more things. I've run over slightly, but once we've got to the point that we're happy, and at the moment I'm not happy because the Mars rover and R2 are covered in grass, which just needs fixing. So let's select my existing grass and let's go to vegetation paint, rubber. No, this is really embarrassing. I've forgotten how to select the grass. I thought we chose this and then we select this, but clearly we do not. So sorry R2, you're going to have to stay grassy. So once we've got something that we're happy with, we can come in and start doing stuff. So we can play around with lighting. So I can just control the exposure, weather effects, dynamics. And this is where this gets really cool. So if I go to weather, I can instantly make this overcast. If I turn it to overcast, it will eventually start raining. And again, you can see there's animated rain on the camera. And it does actually have, if I go to a flat surface, where I've not painted the grass here, you can see that it's actually affecting the floor, and we're getting puddles, drip marks, the windows are getting streaks down them. It really is ever so clever. You change it to winter, and it turns to snow. So we can actually make a summer scene, a winter scene. There's snow in the air. R2 is still covered in grass, but hey, he likes the snow. All of this ability is there. We can change the growth of the components. We can change how windy it is. You know, we've got the ability to really make this scene how we want the scene to be. It's great. I like it a lot. Changing the wind, changing the particles, upping the smog. And all those atmospherics, again, they're just sliders, so it makes it easy for anyone to control. With a camera, we can work with field of view, vignetting, adding lens flare, to make this as realistic or not as you want to with regards to an output. But if we go to our little camera angle that we created down here, we can come in and control, how much vignetting there is. So let's up that a little bit. Field of view, let's just change that a little bit. I'm just adding, just playing around with these sliders here. Lens flare, we're going to have a bit more. Pretty happy with that. Visual effects, do we want a filter on there? 8-bit, yeah, Nintendo. So we can have like an 8-bit graphics. That looks better than 8-bit. I remember a NES. They were 8-bit, right? NES. SNES was 16. Yeah, they didn't look this good. Let's turn that back to none. And great, brilliant. Looks pretty good. So we've got all the ability to do that. If this wasn't enough, you might have this up on a power wall and you might be presenting it. But we've also got the ability to create outputs from this, which again, I really like it. We can create images, and I can just say create an image. It will store this kind of camera angle and what's going on as an image to export. And we can go and create 2 or 3 if we wanted to. I can go to panorama and tell it to create a pano from my current camera angle. I can go to video and say that I want to create a video that goes from here, goes up a little bit, adds, goes up a little bit, adds. Let's come out of that smog, turn around, somewhere up here, and then just spin around and look down on our beautiful design. Go back to the beginning, hit play. Perfect. So you have, again, keyframe animation, really straightforward to use. You can do some phasing stuff to be able to animate things being built or unbuilt just by turning things on and off and section planes and what have you. We can create presentations out of there to have a walkthrough, stop, have a look at things. We can use this in virtual reality. And once you've created those outputs, you just say, well, I want to export the image, I want to export the video, and I want to export them. I'm going to save them on my desktop in a folder called Twinmotion Free for Revit Users AU. And I'm going to say select folder, and this is going to go and compute and render those outputs. But again, Twinmotion, not like other real-time renderers, it's always rendered, right? So it's always on, it's always giving you an output. But what this is going to do is it's going to take that and ray trace it and give it the quality that you would expect, I guess, from a render. It's going to do that on the still image or images, first of all, and then it's going to do each frame of that video and merge them together to create an MP4 file or an animation. And you can control the quality of those through the settings in Twinmotion to say whether you want HD, 4K, frames per second. Again, this is completely out of the box. I installed this yesterday after the announcement at Autodesk University, and just thought that it was a great subject for today's video. So let's just let that finish off. As you can see, it started with 22 minutes and then went down to about a minute. So it certainly works on Windows time. But if we go to our desktop now, into that folder location, you can see we have an image, which if I open up, looks great. And if we go and have a look at our video, again, it's crisp, it's anti-aliased, it looks nice, easy. The fact that you're going to be able to do that from your Revit license with this partnership between Epic Games and Autodesk, for me, is a really exciting thing without any additional purchases necessary. So watch this space. Keep up to date with us on LinkedIn and all the different socials, because we will be going through and trying to make myself go bigger here, but it's not allowing me. We will be going through and explaining how you get access to it, when you need to get access to it, so on and so forth. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to show today. Thank you ever so much for watching. Catch you next week, 2 o'clock, same time, same place. Take care. See you soon.